why not? And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together, we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
We will be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
It was true last week.
Today is our 87th episode.
I was away last week. Did I miss anything?
Nope, nothing controversial happened at all.
Oh, good. Because I trust you to keep the ship on course while I'm away.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The ship was completely on course all week. Nothing bad happened. No siree.
Well, it's great. So we're not going to get any questions about anything today.
Okay, well, so there was one little thing.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, here goes. Okay, this is hard. We fixed Penelope's ultimate attack to properly ignore debuffs.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's all. Ship's on course. Anyway, as always, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
If you don't ask any questions, however, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, what is it this week? The latest Dune trailer.
Yes, I don't know what's happening in it, but I am totally here for it.
I, for one, welcome our new sandworm overlords.
For Arrakis!
That was probably over the top, Justin. Anyway, we, of course, have pulled some questions forward from the previous show that we didn't get to, so we're going to answer some of those while we're waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, I do have a few items. Do I have updates? Maybe I don't have updates. Nevertheless, without any further stalling for time, let's get started with those. I checked in with Peter before the show, and we didn't have anything that was released in the last 2 weeks that sort of fell into the fixes and new features list.
A little busy.
Yeah. So nothing there, but we do still have the in progress list, which actually should have a new item on here that I will add at the end here. But the in progress list still includes an indicator for the unread changelog, adjusting the Timegate piece timer to take into account offline time, making it so that season champions don't appear in the free Timegate choices. With you now being able to open 1,000 chests at a time, taking a pass at how many you can buy in the various locations, so that that makes a little bit more in alignment. Adding hotkeys to new systems, or in some old systems that didn't end up with hotkeys on them. Having an option to hide the lower UI. Confirming that all areas have distractions properly assigned to them, and the funny one here was preventing a kicked player from just rejoining the trials lobby, because apparently you can just rejoin if you get kicked, so that doesn't seem like appropriate. And then there was another item that I was going to add to the in progress list here, and that is that we have been working on getting some familiars put onto the potions screen, so it's well underway. Which would allow you to have either a single familiar that keeps all of the potions up, or assigned to individual potions to keep that potion up when it runs out of time. All right, and that is the end of that list. It looks like we have none for announcements, spelled with a U. Okay. On to leftover questions from the previous show. First question leftover is from Loopy79, and they ask, can we get clarification on the precise mechanics of critical hit chances above 100%, and how the damage multiplier works or stacks in those cases?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So the way it works is, as far as I know, exactly the same way it worked with Cadibri before you rolled out crit to everybody. And that is that when you go over 100% crit, the extra chance is basically applied to a chance to have a second crit, which would then apply the critical multiplier again. So for example, if you had 110% crit, you would be guaranteed one crit, and then you would have a 10% chance to basically crit again. Meaning if it was say you did 10 damage and then a crit was 20 damage, you'd have a 10% chance to crit again and do 40 damage. So that is basically the way it would work. Fear Pills is saying 300% crit is 2 times 2 times 2 damage, not just times 4 damage. That would be true, yeah.
Okay. They were looking for the precise mechanics, so that sounds like it. Next question. This is from Vladimir Night Toad. Nope, Night Road. I got that wrong. Hopefully
Nitrode. It's a nitrode.
Nitrode. Yeah. Is it possible to make a monster codex in game? It would help in understanding what type of favored foe we are facing.
Yeah, this is a good question. And a monster codex type thing is coming. We have begun development work, yay, on the collections dialogue update. For folks who are just joining us for the first time or haven't been around since my last long rant about the collections dialogue update, we are updating what exists in the game right now on the sort of the non-gamepad UI as the collections dialogue. It currently just shows your equipment for all your champions and sort of what rarities you've found in the past. We are completely redoing that dialogue to include not just equipment, but I believe something like 15 or 16 other categories worth of stuff. So there'll be enemies. You'll be able to see sort of adventure details, including bringing up the cinematics, the journal from adventures when you're not on them. You'll be able to see monsters, equipment, familiars, feats, skins, all sorts of stuff that you can't currently really see in the game without third-party tools. So that is all being worked on now. We're very excited. We're hoping that we can get that out later this year.
As in before next year?
That is correct.
I hope it's sooner than that, but...
Well, you hope it's...
No, I mean, like, it's underway, so I hope it doesn't take us until, like, you're giving a lot of breathing room there.
I am giving a lot of breathing room because it's like 20 plus something dialogues and a whole bunch of data. And
I got a lot of repeating pieces. I think, well, we'll see.
Okay. Dave promises that it will be next month. I'm just promising it'll be before the end of the year.
Don't tell Nick. Okay. Next question. This is a bit of an interesting question. This one is from the working lighter. No, it's from the lurking writer. Having played Crusaders of the Lost Idols a bit, I can see similar designs in Idle Champion, although you have iterated quite a lot since then. Do you foresee a continual update method to Idle Champions, or would you ever consider developing an Idle Champions 2, which benefits from everything that you've learned previously? And then in brackets, hopefully with a full account transfer.
Yeah. So right now, I don't foresee an Idle Champions 2. I think we'll just continue kind of grinding away on this game. I don't see an endpoint right now to when we would like stop updating Idle Champions. So it doesn't really make sense to make a sequel when we're just planning to continually update this one. I think that if we were to do an Idle Champions 2, it would be very, very challenging to do account transfers between the two games for the same reason that you generally don't see account transfers in other sequels. It's a very rare kind of thing that really needs to be designed from the starting point to do that kind of stuff, because likely we would have different systems, we would have different mechanics, and and there would just be incongruencies between Idle Champions 1 and this imaginary made-up sequel.
Yes, someone's asking about an Idle game with all Disney characters. Yeah.
I think they don't need us to make that. I think they can probably do that themselves.
Didn't the last time they do that, Square made it though?
I mean, you're talking about
Kingdom Hearts. I think
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
I mean, Disney came out with like one of them cozy type games recently that looked really fun, but
I don't remember the title of it.
Also looked very expensive.
Of course.
Dreamlight Valley. That was the one. Is it still in early access? Because it's in like early access and you have to pay like $1 million to get into it, and then they're saying it'll be free to play once it comes out full.
I thought it was only like $50.
I might be slightly exaggerating.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think kind of a pin in the last question, of course, is that that's not even something that's been even floated or discussed here at this point. So it's not. I think we've got quite a bit of life left in Idle Champions, so before we'd even consider a Champions 2. So.
Cool. Next question here is from Brent Copeland, who asked, last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess, regarding the potion manager. Could you add checkboxes by potions and then a button that uses all the checked potions?
Yeah, so this actually kind of dovetails into what I was talking about earlier for the familiars on the potion screen. We actually went to implement the requested use all potion button just actually, I think it was probably shortly after last week's stream, or not last week's stream, after the stream before, and kind of ran into some conundrums of sort of what made sense for that, because certainly the use of the huge potion would only make sense the first time, and then after that you wouldn't want to use that one again, so the meaning of the button actually would change. But then for other potions like the speed potions, it also caused a little bit of a conundrum, because you can get up to your max, your 10x boost without activating all of the different potion types, so it didn't actually make sense to have that on that button. And that's where it lended into maybe you need more fine granular control, and what actually you want to have happen if you're running through is to have the potions all, if you're trying to keep them all activated, you want when they run out for it to reactivate, not to activate ones that you didn't necessarily want to have activated. So like if you were activating a small, medium, and a large and you hit all, then you'd get a really weird set of times on those. So we kind of decided that option didn't make as much sense as it initially had at first blush, and that's why we decided that we would see if it made more sense to have a familiar option for those. Yeah, all right. I think that's it for questions from last show. On to the new questions. First question of today comes from SailNet. Gold, champion, and Modron chests can be purchased with real money. Why not supply chests? Why not indeed?
Why not indeed? That's a good question. I know originally the reason that they couldn't be purchased with real money was because way back when we added supply chests, it was like shop version 1, and we only had tabs for champions. I'm not entirely sure. I can't quite remember exactly why we didn't put them into the shop as we upgraded the shop over time. I know that you can certainly get them in wild offers. They show up quite often in there. They show up quite often in other sort of free ways that we put them out. So I think we've always just kind of been reserving them for those kind of things and not trying to sort of flood the shop with big potions and stuff by putting them just as a base purchase in the shop. So I don't think we have really a good reason why they're not in there, except for the fact that there's other ways you can get them.
Yeah, I don't recall the original reason why they're not there.
Yeah, they're kind of like the same reason you can't get Gloria Bahamut chests from the weekly giveaway. It's just kind of the way it's always been. And so...
Okay. We have a token weekly 9-jump cap question from Randram. That's there for your reminder, Justin.
Yes, the old weekly 9-jump cap question. I did touch on this a couple, it might have just been the last episode. But we did start to take a look at item level caps for basically putting in an item level cap for 9-jump, and came to the realization that was a very high item level, and y'all are crazy for going after that. Yeah, we're sort of reevaluating exactly what we're going to do with that, and it is still an open question.
Okay.
Next question. There's actually a bunch of questions here in a row about feat saving and formation saves. So the first one here is from Vovcast, who says, I don't like how the new feat saving mechanics work. When I get a new feat and put it in, all the saved formations I load remove it. The feat does nothing, and I don't want to check them every time I start an adventure for all 10 plus heroes. Please make an option to remove feat saving, or even better, just auto-equip and auto-remove plus stat feats in any slot when needed for an adventure, and then feat saving can be removed completely.
Does that actually make it so that feat saving could be removed completely? Yeah, so I mean, this is a question, and we've had a few follow-ups from this from not last week, the previous stream. And I know, as I mentioned at the time, we had in fact had all of it up until like the day before it was released, had an option to have it as optional. And I know the reason that we talked about not having it optional came and went. I know Justin and Design did not get the feature they were hoping for. I mean, we could probably put that option back in.
I mean, it feels to me like there's some general improvements. Like if you've got a 40% DPS feat and then you buy or earn a higher one, like there should totally be a way to just
Make it use
swap
the
that
higher
in
one.
to
Yeah.
all formations that have the lower one saved. I think it's just a matter of figuring out how the UI for that will work.
Yeah.
Um,
Providing a clear display of an option of how to make that replace all of the existing ones.
yeah, either that or like even just separate out formation saves from feat saves.
Then you
Could
load a
be an
formation save and you
option.
load a feat save, but it sounds
Yeah,
like that doesn't necessarily solve the problem here, because
it makes it so you don't
um,
have to like update a bazillion format. Like if you have 10 different formations saved and they've all got one champion in them who has that feat, like you would have to go through and save override 10 different formation saves just to update one feat, which is super duper annoying.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I see like in the chat, like Random saying solution, make it specifically opt in for formation. That is how we had it until, like I say, literally up until the day before we released it, and then that got pulled, which sort of, hindsight does feel like maybe that was the option that just should have been there. So
Yeah.
I bet that code is just commented out, and we can just uncomment it and make that box appear. So, okay.
All right, so there's a couple other people. Randram asked about this as well, and Emote, but I think we've kind of addressed it at this point, so we can move on down to these next questions.
Okay. This next question is from a name that I don't think I've seen before. I'm going to screw up the pronunciation, of course. Phi Claus Selix. I think that's what that is. Hopefully it's close enough. And they ask, how does the game calculate how much gold you get from distractions, and what are the drop rates from bosses?
This is a good question.
He's telling me it's Phi Claus Selix. Okay.
This is a good question for sort of newer players, for which that those gold drops are still very significant. So I believe that from distractions, the gold dropped is roughly just one monster's worth of gold, up to, I think it goes from one monster's worth up to a couple monsters worth. I think for the really fast ones that fly by very quickly, I think those drop a little bit more, but it's all based off of basically the gold that is dropped in the area, which is based off of the health that the monster has. So the higher the health, the more gold they're going to drop proportionally.
Yeah, and I think it's just a multiplier on the speed.
Is it? Okay.
I think so. Like the faster it goes, the more gold you get. I think that's how that one ended up working.
Yeah. For drop rates from bosses, the gold drop rates are similar to regular monsters. They just have way more health, so they drop way more gold. And then they do have a small chance of dropping chests. I think it's like a 3% chance for a silver chest. I think there's a 1% chance that gets upgraded to a gold chest. So like a 0.03% chance of a gold chest or something to that effect. I'm not 100% sure on those numbers because it's been approximately 5.5 or 6 years since we've messed with them at all. And then bosses can also drop Timegate pieces, and they will drop one of those every, I think, 3 to 5 days, something in there. Again, it has been several years since I've looked at those numbers, so I could be off by a day or two for those. But they basically drop them on they drop them, and then there's a cooldown before they can drop them again. And I think bosses actually, if your cooldown is not up, bosses have, I think, a 20% chance to drop them. So as soon as your cooldown is up on Timegate pieces, you get them pretty quick. People in chat are saying 5 to 6 days. That sounds like that's plausible as well. Could make that a little bit faster. Anyway, and those are the things that bosses can drop. There are a couple of champions who can also cause them to drop other things. Black Viper can cause them to drop red gems. There might be another one that I'm forgetting. But those are the important ones.
Okay. Next question. This is from Fewer Pills, asking, why did BBEG need to be hotfixed with the zombie cooldown minimum increased to 1.5 seconds without there being any bug or extremely overpowered interaction?
Yeah, so the answer to this is he was hotfixed because the intention was always that it be a 1.5 second one, and for some reason that was overlooked. So we were just hotfixing to get that properly into place before it became an issue. So it was not possible to get down to there since we fixed his interaction with Narak. And then it was once again possible with Strongheart being able to join the affiliation. So we just wanted to make sure that that was all patched up before it became an issue. So it wasn't like a super important, like, oh my God, the game is broken kind of thing. It was just the intention was always that it be 1.5 seconds. And this was just making sure that was in there. Next question here is from Vavcas, who asks...
I get this question, huh? Okay.
That is correct. You get all the questions like this. Their question is, any progress with speed hero mechanics working in the background party / offline and removing the minimum zone completion time? Also, you changed how speed potions work. I can finish 1,000 zones with 1 hour speed potion, but using the same potion for background party ends after 200 zones. Please change it back. I didn't know that we had changed that. I thought that
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I can certainly look into the details on that one. Otherwise, no, we haven't had a lot of progress on getting the individual speed hero mechanics working in the background party, which of course we're removing a minimum zone completion time. Yeah, I mean, that's something that probably needs sort of some like a specific project set up around it to see if we can get the speed heroes that need to have their abilities implemented in the background done, because that is something that, we talked about doing after the offline progress improvements were done, but it is something that hasn't had a lot of pressing requests for it, and it hasn't been something that's been top of the plate. So it's certainly something that probably should be looked at, but I'm not 100% sure which heroes we need to start on for that. So yeah, something that it should still be looked at, but it hasn't had any progress. And I'll check into why if what changed with the 1,000 zones to 200 zones. That's yeah, I didn't know we changed anything.
Yeah, I imagine that wouldn't have been intentional. It's probably something that would have changed when Mark was optimizing background progress, if it changed at all.
Yeah, that's possible.
So we can look into that. Next question is from Grayman Walking, who asks, is there any way to add a slot number on each slot and on the individual champion portraits to make selecting a champion for a slot you need filled easier?
Yeah, so I assume this is a question that I know you sort of, once you, especially if you're if you're a newer player, and especially if you haven't memorized all the slots, which I can't say that you're necessarily going to do, having actually a number on the slot and a number on the champion portrait might be something that's worth considering. I don't know that it is one of those things where it feels like we wouldn't want to sort of obscure the portrait with too much text, but it certainly seems like an option that could be put in there as just something that players could turn on. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or feelings on that one, Justin?
No, no strong feelings one way or the other.
We do talk about it. Yeah. Like this champion is a slot 6 champion, but it's not like it's listed anywhere. You actually kind of have to count the slots. Oh yeah, that's slot 6.
It's
cool.
It's funny because when design is setting up, we often don't specifically think about the slot numbers. We think about just the other champions that are in the slots. And we often just, when we're talking about that, we base it off of the base, like the core champion in the slot. So we won't say like, oh, we're going to, put this champion in slot 5. We're going to say, oh, we're going to put this champion in Calliope's slot, which also has, champions X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I think it'd be a fine thing to do as an option.
Okay, I'll tag it then. Okay, next question. This is from Emote, asking, can we please have an option with the random skin mode to let it select the default skin as one of its choices?
I think this is a good idea. What do you think, Dave?
It's a good question.
We've talked about this before, and I think it was a specific design choice of the.
Well, it was to pick a skin, not to pick the default. And I think the sort of the wording of this is kind of what's the word for it? Thinking past the sale. I'm calling it the default skin. Is it a default skin or is it not skinned at that point?
I think it's a default skin.
Yeah, I think it's sort of how you look at it.
I think that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a little bit of a tricky one in the sense that, I mean, it's sort of an extra option. I'm not sure exactly where we would put that. We could certainly make it a global option, include default skin and the random skin somewhere in the option. It probably wouldn't kill us. It's sort of because certainly it's going to go both ways, right? Some players are going to want to have the default included and some are not. And we certainly wouldn't want to do it on an individual champion basis, I don't think. So could be a global option. I'll tell Jarrett the bad news.
Yeah, I think a global option is a good compromise because, like you say, I don't. Trying to do. I'm not going to reach out. I'm getting a little bit creeped out there. I'm actually not wearing any skin right now. This is just a shirt. No, I was going to say, I think trying to do some UI to make it an option for each individual champion would be a little bit challenging, I think.
I mean, next would be pick from a set of skins you wish to be included in a random set of skins per, it's sort of a collection on a per champion basis. I think that's next, right? We'll
just need an entire just advanced mode for the game, which just complicates all the UI, but gives everyone every feature they've ever asked for. That will be coming out later this year.
Boneless and skinless option.
We'll have to do a skin for every champion that is the no skin. And then then our rating would probably go to a different thing. Let's see. Next question here is from Emote. Actually, I'm sorry. Lurking Writer says we should call them looks or outfits. And actually, originally they were called outfits.
No, they were originally called skins. And then there was an attempt to make them called outfits, and then
or costumes or something like that.
No,
it was outfits. Maybe it was outfits.
You can always know what the original thing was called because of the name of the table. You look in the database; it's data skin. You know that's what it was called.
Well, I mean.
I can see there's some strong opinions.
There's some exceptions
there are
to
definitely
that,
some strong
without
opinions.
getting into the specifics of the implementation of our database structure, which I don't know that people want to hear us debate.
That's right. And the champions are called heroes.
Yeah, and what's the base game class called?
No, let's not talk about that.
Anyway, next question is from Emote, who asks or says, when there are extended server outages like today that lasted about 4.5 hours, would it be possible for you to credit the lost time towards people's 7-day potions?
So, I mean, I think there's two questions on that. But the first bit is, I think when offline progress runs, it's going to take into account the bonuses those potions were giving, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but
it should, sure. as far as I know.
Yeah. And second of all, I don't know why Sean woke me up at 4 a.m. I don't know. This is
Dave's not the one to ask about it. He's the one who woke up early to fix this.
Yes, that was fun.
I just slept right through Sean's message.
Nothing like a phone call in the morning at 4:45. But I think in general that they shouldn't have lost a whole lot because the offline progress would take that into account.
I think I saw them discussing this in our chat just before we came in here, and I think they were talking about the potential for compensation. So I think there might be some for this. It's hard to sort of do an overall, like just a global kind of like, if we're down for X amount of time, we do compensation, because every sort of downtime is different. So for example, this one started, we've got, 7 or 8 play servers. This one started on one play server, and then it kind of spread a little bit to the point at which I think it was 5 of the servers by the time we fixed it. So there were still some people playing. But I don't think anyone new could load the game due to the nature of what was going on. So it's different for every downtime. We kind of do it on a case by case basis, but they're talking about it right now, so it could still happen.
Yeah. I see a question in the chat that was related to that, though, which is like, does Alpha Crawl asking, does server outages and crashes actually trigger offline progress properly? And the general answer to that is it does. That if you get disconnected and you can't reconnect over a large enough period of time, it is going to trigger offline progress. But it does make me wonder, does it get to that? The game client must get to the state where it doesn't let you resume. Like if you were off for 4 hours, you do have to restart the client at that point. It does not nicely resume. As long as you reload, your data gets reloaded, you do get that offline progress.
I am not 100% sure what would happen with that.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure you end up at that state where the thing's popped up that says cannot connect to server, and you're stuck in a situation where you have to close the client and reopen it.
It depends how many of those are stacked up on top of each other.
We
how many
fixed
you
that.
want to click
Did we not fix that?
I don't think we have. As much as I've harped on that before, I don't think we have.
Okay.
So yeah, it looks like there's maybe some optimization we can make to that. So at least it forces a nice refresh if it hasn't connected in a while. I think that would be worth doing.
Yeah.
Just going to make a note of that here. Let's see. How do I add a bullet point? Let's do that. There we go. Anyway, while I will type that in once I do this next thing. So you're not just sitting here watching me type, which is super exciting. But the next thing that's coming up is our world famous, let's say, weekly asterisk giveaway of 42 chests of your choice. The way this works, if you haven't been in chat before, is very, very shortly there will be a code in chat. You will take that code, copy and paste it. I would suggest copy and pasting it so you don't spell it wrong. Paste it back into chat and hit enter, and that will enter you into a draw to win 42 chests of your choice. It can be any type of chest that exists in the game except for Glory of Bahamut chests for some reason. The code today is Shiver Me Timbers. Maybe there were some questions about pirate skins down here somewhere. So type that in. I guess, yeah, we're talking about boats in the name of the episode. Okay. Anyway, I figured it out. So type in Shiver Me Timbers with capital S, M, and T and no spaces.
Oh, you said to copy and paste it. Yeah.
This is why you copy and paste it. And you will be entered for a chance to win those chests. Good luck to everyone.
Yeah, see, after your comment there, I thought they were going to go cheeky on you and do something that no one could spell wrong, like cat. You know, or make sure you copy this in. Probably it's like, I don't know if I'm going to spell that.
K-A-T?
Yes, that's okay.
Bad example.
Yeah, all right. Dog, then.
Oh, dog? D-A-W-G? See, the problem is you're trying to do this in English, and English is just the
word
dumbest language. There are many ways to spell everything.
Well, I don't know that the other languages are any better.
Well, okay. So maybe it's not the dumbest language, but it's equally dumb at the very least.
Okay.
Anyway, let us move on
to
the next question.
Don't forget to ask for them transparent aluminum chests, of course. They are the best chest, my personal favorite chest.
Because you can see what's in them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next question. All
yes.
right. You've gone ahead and colored all these questions. Let's see. Fewer Pills asks, can you please change the daily quest system to not roll a daily with a champ that's locked into your trial as an assault front champ? That's basically an impossible daily.
Yes. So this has been an issue for all 4 seasons. It's only really come up because we made Jarlaxle one of the daily champions this season, and obviously he's one that a lot of folks use in their trials. So I thought this was something that Peter had addressed right when we noticed that people were getting Jarlaxle and getting locked out of a daily quest, but I feel like it did not actually get fixed. I think the way that he tried to fix it possibly did not account for trials, and was just accounting for champions in some other way. So I will flag this, and we will take another look at that, because this should this can and should be done. It would still be possible after we did this that you could get the quest to get some kills or crits with Jarlaxle and then send him away on a trial, and it wouldn't automatically just remove the quest. But could certainly make it so that you would not get that while he was off on a trial.
Okay, next question. This is from Emote. Could we please have more ranged DPS champions? We only have 2 that are innately ranged, and that's far fewer than we have magic DPS champions, which is also far fewer than we have melee DPS champions.
Yes. So this is a great question. It is something that we are always considering when it comes to champion roles. Ranged DPS is certainly something that we're looking at. We're always trying to make sure we have a nice diverse set. And ranged is one that has always fallen behind because there's just less ranged attackers period in the game, because ranged is fairly niche, right? You've got, a ranged attacker who's got like a bow or a crossbow or like a throwing dagger, or maybe like a gunpowder weapon of some sort. But with magic users, obviously there's tons more spells you can be using. With melee users, there's tons more weapons you can be using. So there's just a lot more diversity in those, and so we see a lot more of them. The other thing I would say that factors into this is the fact that a lot of our champions are from content creators or from lore champions who kind of have their base attack generally pretty fixed. And so it just means that we generally get less ranged champions in the game than other types of attackers. So it is something that we do try to address whenever we can do like a C&E original, or whenever we can do a lore character that could go either way. We will oftentimes try to skew them towards being ranged. That's why we've had some ranged tanks lately that have always been a challenge, because we're just not going to find a content creator who plays a ranged tank, because outside of idle champions, it just doesn't really make sense. So yeah, it's something that we're aware of on the design side, and something that we are slowly over time trying to fix. And I see people in chat coming up with different types of ranged attacks. So yes, there could be some more that I did not specifically mention.
All right. And here I thought all tanks were ranged.
Other type of tank.
Yeah. So we could use them to drive over. Anyway, next question. This is from Fewer Pills. Why is the Timegate Daily still there? You already said at Season 2 this daily shouldn't show up anymore if you own all champions. It's extremely annoying.
Yes, I looked into this last week after I first saw this complaint happening at the beginning of Season 4. And it looks like a couple of the restrictions that designed for that got skipped during implementation. So it is back on the list of things to be implemented. I believe Peter is looking at this as a kind of medium-high priority. But the idea is the Timegate Daily should only show up if you can open a Timegate. So that would be if it's a Timegate weekend, or you have at least 6 Timegate pieces. If you have at least 10 champions that you haven't recruited yet. And there was a third requirement. What was it? I can't remember, but it is supposed to basically not show up if you own all the champions, or not show up if you own almost all the champions. So both this one and the Jarlaxle one should hopefully be addressed in the coming weeks.
Okay, so I'm just highlighting more questions here. All right. Scrolling back up. Next question. This is from Emote. When you make specializations where a mathematically best option is clearly the one to choose, with Nixie, Antreus, Evandra, for example, please can you just do the math for us by showing us the total bonus? Percent-based math is not intuitive to most of the player base, and even for those of us where it is, it's just busy work having to do the calculations ourselves.
Yeah, this is a good question, a good comment. I think that probably we will tend towards this in the future, just as a kind of quality of life thing. I think the reason that we kind of held back on it, I mean, if we go way back, or not way back, but if we go back not all that long, we get to the point before we even showed like the number of champions that would be affected by a thing, or the number of champions that would impact a specialization. And so we added that in as just a way to kind of get a quick glance at how many champions it would be affecting or affected by, which was what was being asked for at that time. I think it was specifically around Ashara's specialization choices back then. And I think that this is definitely something that we could further improve by just having sort of this effect, or this specialization will have this % increase on the ability, rather than having to, as you say, make you do the math yourself. So I think we'll end up there.
All right. Here's a good question, which, let's see how you answer this, Justin. I knew this was coming. This was the alluded question from the intro, but we didn't get anything until now, which is great. This is from OG17, asking about Season 4. Season 4 now goes to 120. So there's no longer a reason for the recent change cutting off the bonus track visibility at 90. Can this be reverted or moved to 120 for the season?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good question, and definitely one that I was thinking about when we were adding the extra XP in. I think the reason that I'm hesitant, it's not just kind of a snap decision to do it, is because of the fact that, because of how season XP works in our game, anyone who's like joining the game today won't be able to get to level 120 in the season without buying boosts, because getting to 120 would require you to do every single season daily for all 70 days of the season, as well as all the seasonal quests and all the milestone quests. And by putting it back up to 120, we're just kind of getting back to the issue that we had before, where people who are joining the season now would not be able to get all of the season track without making purchases, which is something that I think makes sense to have at a certain point in the season. Like if you join a season halfway through, you probably don't have the expectation that you'll be able to complete the season track because you've missed half of it. I think at this point, when you've only missed maybe a week and a day, you might still think it would be reasonable to get to 120. And that would not be something that is now possible if you started playing the season today. So I think a good kind of halfway mark there is keeping it at 90 for now. And you know, people can get stuff past that. It doesn't prevent you from getting stuff past that, but it also makes it a little bit more fair to people who are joining late. And we don't want to give people the wrong impression that if you join the season now, you would be able to get to 120. Next season, we're likely going to pull that back to 60. We'll rebalance the XP again for sort of a max of 90. We'll pull the bonus reward track back to, or not the bonus reward track, the base reward track back to 60. So you'll be able to finish the base reward track as long as you join somewhere in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. And then the bonus stuff after that will be reconfigured, so it's just not as confusing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the thing that's sort of missing here is that the 60 was the intended goal for, like, here's the season track. When you get to 60, you've done it, you finished the season. Mm-hmm. And then for the bonus track was supposed to be, you know, it's all gravy from there, it's bonus. Unfortunately, certainly the visual of that did not make it look that way at all. And so you can see why it looks like, hey, there's actually more paths here for you to do. And that wasn't the intention, and it was badly executed for sure. And so certainly moving into season 5, we'll make sure that the bonus is not displayed as a track that you can complete, because it's not a track you can complete. It's just additional bonuses that you can get for going above and beyond. But it certainly created that perception, and so yeah,
and yeah.
Okay.
Next question is from Lightning Hawk, who asked, is it possible to have the little ads for items in the store not show if you already own the item being advertised? I bought the Hawk Familiar in the ad on June 22nd, and the ad kept showing up. Just a little annoying to see ads for something I already bought.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, those the notifications that appear at the top of the game do continue to show even if you have the item purchased. I think because they're actually kind of disconnected from each other. I know I've clicked on that myself and been like, oh nope, this is already here. Why is this still showing at the top? So I'm not 100% sure how those are connected to each other, because I think this is a notification says while this thing is for sale, open the shop and go to this page. But I think we can do something to make it so that those don't show for items that you've purchased. So we'll tag that. Okay, next question. This next one is from Loopy79, and they ask, the fire's defeated area requirement feels awful since it isn't affected by any speed mechanics other than briv skips. Since the fires are considered obstacles, not enemies, any thoughts on changing this to make these areas less horrible and annoying?
Yeah, it's certainly not something we use very often. These kind of doodad quest targets for areas. I do wonder about ways might be an interesting champion mechanic to have your champions actually like run faster. Because the rate at which they spawn is essentially tied to how quickly you are moving forward, and the rate at which you move forward is pretty linear right now. But I could see a champion who maybe hurries everyone along and has them kind of move twice as fast, which would cause those particular mechanics to run a little bit faster.
Okay.
Could do.
Next question. This is from OG17. Can there be some sort of void adventure that disables blessings, perks, etc., and only uses the character abilities? I spent way too long wondering why Strongheart was healing at different rates. Spoilers, Zariel's good perk. And there's a ton of unlisted things to keep track of, and a simplified environment would be handy.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, because I think the way I would approach it is a little bit different in terms of trying to fix this particular issue. If you're trying to understand why Strongheart is healing at a different rate, the thing I would like to do with this is make it so Zariel's good perk shows up in the incoming effects on Zariel, or not on Zariel, on Strongheart. So that you get all of that information about what is affecting the champion on the character sheet itself, as opposed to having to go into patron perks to see how those are affecting it, and blessings to see how some of those are affecting it, though some blessings do show up there and some do not. So I think there's the thing I would like to do to fix this issue. It'd be to make sure that everything that is affecting that champion is showing up on the incoming effects or in the profile in some way. And yeah, I see your point of there. It's good, but there's a lot of effects to list. I would definitely, there would need to be some reconfiguring of the profile to make this work well. We've talked about, I don't know if we've talked about this on the show before, but we've talked about this internally, the idea of sort of adding some more tabs there. So you can have, right now it's just kind of upgrades, and then formation abilities, and then perks, and is there incoming and outgoing effects? Are they done separately? Anyway, changing it so that there'd be a tab for patron effects, there'd be a tab for perk effects, there'd be a tab for other effects, so you can kind of bio is the other one. So yeah, just having those sort of split out, so there's so you can still kind of see which champion effects are affecting you, but then you can also see the patron ones, the perks, and anything else that's affecting them. Buffs would be another one that'd be good to put in there. So I think that's where I would like to go with fixing this particular issue, rather than creating a somewhat confusing kind of void adventure that has a kind of very niche purpose and might be confusing to people who are not looking to make use of that niche purpose.
They can add a void adventure, Justin. The ID will just be something you'll have to manually send via one of the third party.
Please don't do that. You may bork your account.
Yes. But it wouldn't show up in the UI, then no one would be confused. I'm kidding, of course. Don't go try Adventure 11172. That's not a thing.
Oh my god. Next question is from Alpha Kroll, who asks, Any chance for a reset this adventure for the active group, similar to the background parties?
Sorry, when you asked that, I was just picturing, no, you have to switch to another party and then hit the reset the party on the party dialogue. This is not a good solution. That's
awful.
That feels like an option that we could add. I think I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to have something like that to avoid switching parties to do that. Yeah, I'm going to tag that unless you have an objection to
I don't have an objection to that. Yeah, just it's almost like you've got the reset adventure. It's just a reset and restart the current adventure, so you don't have to go through the campaign map. I could see something for that.
Yeah, saves a few steps if you're looping.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if it'd almost just be on the reset
screen,
like on the reset screen.
Done,
it's like restart. Go to campaign map or restart current adventure.
It could be.
Probably be the low-hanging fruit for that. It'd be one more click, but
yeah,
be a little bit more intuitive.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if you changed your mind halfway through the reset screen, then you're in trouble.
Yeah,
no, not really. Okay, next question. This question is from Library of Akasha. Could you add something for duplicate shiny equipment? The extra 125 eye levels just doesn't cut it for me. I'd rather have something be like a polish fragment or a drop of polish, which requires, say, 10 or 100 to be combined into a potion of polish. Whatever seems fair to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I don't think it's something that we would spend time in. I'm getting duplicate shiny equipment is a very, very rare thing unless you are in the business of farming a very, very large number of chests. So I think that this feels like something that would only impact a very small portion of our player base, which would probably be development time better spent on something that would be affecting more people.
I think so. Okay, next question. This is also from Library of Akasha. Could you change it so that we can supercharge the Fast Core's game speed, quest drops bonus, and monster spawn speed? And maybe add an additional monster spawn.
So Library of Akasha wants to go fast is what I'm getting from this. No, there's a very specific reason that all of those things are set to cap where they are, and that is so that you actually need to use champions in this game. So no, we are not going to be adding additional speed options to Modron cores. Sorry.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Loopy79, and they ask, was any thought given to making Brunor's devastating ultimate attack cause a stun as well? It seems like a real missed opportunity for Champions of the Hall synergy, not to make that attack stun.
Yeah, I suppose this is something we could have added as part of the Companions rework. I think for the kind of non-core champions to the season, I think we didn't want to really do too much to them outside of Dritz. A couple of just minor changes to Dritz. Yeah, so I guess the answer to this question, the answer to the question of was any thought given to making it stun, the answer to that is no. We did not give any thought to that. Giving some thought to it now, I suppose it's not a terrible idea. I could take it or leave it, though. I mean, it's the first ultimate in the game that new players run into, so it's, it doesn't have to be super flashy or do a lot aside from just help you get past the level 5 boss without getting your formation wiped in the tutorial, and that's really the purpose of it. But I mean, we could think about that. But I'm leaning towards probably not making a change.
Okay.
Next question here is from Typo King.
It's the Typo King.
It's the Typo King.
Aha. Very clever.
And they ask, has any thought been given to allowing some ultimates to be locked from roaming familiars? having them switch Beetle and Grim, Salisa's stance, or Havilar's imps is kind of frustrating.
Yeah. So this is one that where we have definitely talked about this before, and we have sort of put in a little bit of thought, but have not come up with a good solution. I think sort of the only sort of solution that really makes sense to me would be to just have certain ultimates that just never wouldn't be something you could choose, I don't think. Because I know we talked about putting a familiar on as a blocker familiar, which always was never felt like a good solution.
The problem with this is it's always been a kind of a UI question of how we manage to do this in a way that's intuitive and will, like, if we did it in a non-intuitive way, it could potentially already exist in the game. People just wouldn't know about it because it's not intuitive. So doing it in an intuitive way is going to be really important to this, and we have not yet figured out what that intuitive way is.
Yeah, just right-click the ultimate to lock it. I don't know how to right-click on a tablet. I suppose a click and hold might be the solution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Okay, moving on.
Let's see. Next question is from ID Nixel, who asks, "Did you ever figure out what caused the server crash earlier today?"
So we don't have an exact cause for the server crash earlier today. When I went in and looked at all the servers, the one that was causing an issue, the database on that server had stopped responding. Sort of anecdotally, looking at the loads on those servers across the morning, it did seem like that one was taking a very heavy load compared to the other servers, which likely means it was one of the ones being sort of targeted by sort of external like scripting type sites. That'd be my guess as to why that load was just so much higher than the other servers, but I don't have anything definitive at this point. Go ahead.
We got time for one more?
I think we got time for one more.
All right. This next one is from Loopy79, who asks, "The favors list seems to be arranged rather randomly.
No.
Any thoughts to adjusting the display order, making permanent campaign favors all show first, followed by event/season/ Bahamut/ Mistra favors at the end of the list?"
Yes, this is
not random. I know it's by ID.
Yes, the default. This is, if I had a nickel for every time this has come up, well, I might have $1 by now. I don't actually, it wouldn't be that much. But it is something that has come up numerous times, and that is that these things are in release added order typically because they're just in the ID order. And then if we don't add a sort, that's the sort they remain. So yeah, I do think that is something that we should definitely adjust that.
I'm surprised that this isn't already by permanent campaigns first. I could have sworn we did something like that, but maybe we didn't, and we just sort of had those ones first.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely seems like something we should do if it's not already that way.
And I agree. Well, that is definitely all we've got time for today.
If we didn't get to your question this week, don't worry. You'll have another opportunity. We will be live again at this same time next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to give a shout out to our tireless mods. This week it was Mars and Gabe. They're the two folks who copy your questions into our questions doc and help to make things awesome in chat. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Because without you, no one here gets to do what we do.
We like what we do.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
All right, Justin, what do you get when you rub two oranges together? Pulp friction.